There's a unique power in walking alone. When a man steps out on his own, without anyone by his side, he's not just choosing solitude, he's choosing to listen to the only voice that truly matters, his own. It's not about rejecting others, it's about finding clarity. When you walk alone, you're forced to face the world in its purest form, unfiltered and raw. You must rely on yourself for guidance, decisions, and answers. In that solitude, there's no one to distract you, no one to sway your choices. It's just you, and that's where you discover the real you, the parts of yourself that would never surface in the noise of the world. You start to understand what you truly value, what your true purpose is, and where you want to go. Every step, every challenge becomes a lesson in resilience and self-reliance. Independence is not about doing everything on your own. It's about standing firm in who you are, understanding that the strength to move forward comes from within. The beauty of walking alone is that you get to build your emotional resilience in a way that no external support could ever provide. You're not just learning how to deal with the world, but how to understand and embrace your own emotional landscape. And in that journey, you find peace. You find that the noise of others, their expectations and their judgments, are not necessary for you to find your way. You begin to trust in the silence, in the moments of solitude, where the only thing that matters is your vision and purpose. When a man walks alone, he begins a process of self-discovery that is impossible to achieve when surrounded by distractions or the expectations of others. It is in the quiet moments of solitude that he encounters his true self, the person who he is beneath the roles and labels the world has placed on him. He starts to recognize his strengths and weaknesses, his fears and his desires, without interference from outside influences. The journey of self-discovery is not just about finding out who he is, but understanding why he reacts to situations the way he does, and what drives him in the core of his being. The more time he spends walking alone, the more he begins to see himself clearly, without the distortions that arise from trying to fit into a mold created by others. There is a deep clarity in solitude, a chance to ask the difficult questions without fearing judgment, and in that space, the truth about one's identity begins to emerge. Independence is often misunderstood as the ability to do everything on your own. But it's deeper than that. It's about understanding that you can make decisions based on your values and beliefs without relying on others to validate or guide you. A man who walks alone learns to trust his instincts, to follow his inner compass even when the path is uncertain. In solitude, he discovers that he doesn't need external approval or reassurance to move forward. Independence is the confidence to stand alone, knowing that your choices, no matter how unconventional they may seem to others, are yours to make. This sense of self-sufficiency doesn't imply isolation or a rejection of connection, but rather an internal freedom, the ability to stand on your own 2 feet without fear of what the world may think. It's in this space that true growth happens, where a man learns to rely on himself not out of necessity, but out of empowerment. When a man walks alone, he confronts his emotions in a way that is impossible when relying on others for comfort or guidance. He faces the highs and lows of life without the distraction of seeking validation or external support. This emotional growth comes from learning to process his own feelings, to sit with discomfort, and to understand the root of his emotions. In solitude, he becomes more attuned to his emotional state, recognizing the triggers, patterns, and reactions that shape his interactions with the world. As he experiences hardship or joy, without the crutch of another's presence, he builds emotional resilience, learning how to navigate difficult situations with grace, patience, and strength. It is in walking alone that a man can experience the full spectrum of emotions, learning how to regulate them, how to use them as tools for self-understanding and improvement, rather than allowing them to control him. Through this process, he becomes not only emotionally intelligent, but emotionally whole. In solitude, a man has the opportunity to cultivate inner peace, a state of being where he is no longer at the mercy of external noise, expectations, or distractions. Without the influence of others, he can retreat inward, focusing on his thoughts, his desires, and his mental well-being. In this space, he learns to accept himself fully, understanding that peace comes from within, not from external circumstances. Walking alone allows him to clear his mind, to create mental clarity that allows for reflection and deep thinking. Without the pull of external demands, he is free to prioritize his own mental and emotional health. Over time, he learns that true peace is not about avoiding challenges or escaping discomfort, but rather the ability to remain grounded and centered no matter what life presents. This inner peace becomes a source of strength, as it's the foundation from which he can face any challenge, knowing that he has the calm and resilience to navigate it. When a man walks alone, he is given the space to define his purpose, without the influence of others' expectations or opinions. In solitude, he is able to strip away the distractions of the world and focus solely on what truly matters to him, what he values, what motivates him, and what he wants to achieve. Walking alone brings clarity, because there's no outside pressure to conform to someone else's idea of success or fulfillment. He begins to ask the big questions. Why am I here? What do I want to contribute to the world? What is my legacy? These questions, free from external noise, allow him to tap into his true sense of direction, one that is aligned with his authentic self. He no longer seeks approval or guidance from others, but instead trusts the quiet moments of introspection to steer him toward his true calling. This clear sense of purpose becomes the driving force behind his actions, allowing him to move with conviction, knowing that each step is one closer to fulfilling the life he has created for himself. The freedom a man experiences when walking alone is unlike any other. It is not the absence of people, but the absence of dependence that creates this freedom. When he walks alone, he is free to make his own choices without being swayed by the opinions, expectations, or desires of others. There are no compromises, no negotiations, only the pure, unfiltered expression of what he wants and needs. This autonomy allows him to explore new paths, take risks, and make mistakes without fear of judgment. He learns to embrace the unknown because, in solitude, he has the freedom to create his own destiny. The beauty of this freedom lies in its ability to empower him to live authentically, unencumbered by the pressures of societal norms or relationships. Walking alone is a declaration of sovereignty over one's life, a realization that the only person who truly needs to approve of his journey is himself. And in this freedom, he finds not only the courage to explore, but the space to grow and evolve into the person he is meant to be. There is an undeniable strength that comes from walking alone. It is not a weakness to walk a solitary path. Rather, it is a demonstration of the power that comes from self-sufficiency and confidence. A man who walks alone has learned to rely on his own abilities to overcome obstacles and to face challenges head-on, without needing to lean on others for support. This strength isn't just physical, it's mental, emotional, and spiritual. Walking alone forces him to confront life on his own terms, without distractions or safety nets, and in doing so, he discovers a well of resilience he might never have known existed. With each step, he builds his endurance, learning how to handle adversity with grace and how to rise after every fall. This strength, forged in solitude, becomes a core part of his character, an unshakable foundation that no external force can undermine. He carries with him the quiet confidence that he is capable of handling whatever comes his way, knowing that the power he needs is already within him. In the end, walking alone is not a path of isolation, but one of profound personal growth. It is in solitude that a man discovers his true strength, his purpose, and his own inner peace. He learns that independence is not about rejecting the world, but about embracing his own power to shape his life. Each step, each challenge faced alone adds to his emotional growth, building resilience and wisdom along the way. Through the journey of walking alone, he becomes the man he was always meant to be: self-reliant, grounded, and empowered. And while the path may seem solitary, it is in these moments of solitude that a man uncovers the fullness of his potential, discovering that sometimes the greatest journey is the one you take by yourself.